These stories have been crafted for sleep. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. The following stories are encounters with Skinwalkers. Encounter 1. I grew up in a small house on the edge of the desert, not far from the Navajo reservation. My grandmother used to tell me stories about skinwalkers when I was little, but I never paid them much attention. Then I moved back to my childhood home. It was supposed to be temporary, just until I'd figured out my next steps in life. At first I enjoyed the quiet, then the scratching started. At first I thought it was mice, a light skittering inside the walls, like tiny claws scraping against the wood. I set traps, checked for holes. Nothing. The scratching grew louder, heavier. One night I was in bed when the sound shifted. It wasn't just scratching anymore. It was dragging. Something inside my walls was moving. I held my breath, pressing my ear to the wall. The sound stopped. A long silence stretched out. Then whispering. I stumbled back. My blood turned to ice. It was my voice, coming from inside the walls. Let me out. My stomach twisted. My body screamed at me to run, but I just stood there, my mind refusing to process what I've just heard. Please, it's too dark in here. The voice was clearer now, closer. I turned and bolted, slamming the door behind me. My heart pounded as I grabbed the shotgun from under my bed, my hands slick with sweat. Then the doorknob turned. I raised the shotgun. Something slammed against the door. The wood buckled. The hinges rattled. I fired. The blast shattered the silence, tearing through the door. Silence. For a moment I thought it was over. And then, missed. The voice came from right behind me. I spun, but the room was empty. Then the scratching started again, inside my closet. The whisper came again, but now it was laughing. Let me out. I ran out of the house and never looked back. When I returned with a priest days later, we found deep claw marks inside the walls, and carved into the wood, over and over, was my name. Encounter number 2. Jake had driven this desert highway 1,000 times before, but tonight felt off. There wasn't another car in sight, just the endless black road stretching under the stars. The air felt heavy, pressing against his chest. Then he saw it, a coyote standing in the middle of the road. It didn't move, didn't flinch as his truck approached. Jake slowed, honked, but the animal just stared. Then it stood up. Not like a bear, not like any animal should. It rose on 2 legs. Its limbs were too long, its joints bending the wrong way. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Then the thing grinned. The truck's headlights caught its face, its human face. Jake slammed his foot on the gas. The creature lurched forward, slamming a hand against the wood, its claws raking across the metal. Jake swerved, the truck fish-stalled, tires screeching. Then he heard it, laughing. Not an animal sound, his own voice, laughing back at him. He glanced at the rear-view mirror and his stomach dropped. The thing was running beside his truck, keeping up at 60 miles per hour. It knocked against the window. Jake turned his head and nearly lost control of the wheel. The creature was staring at him, grinning with his own face. It spoke. "Slow down, Jake. Let me in." He yanked the wheel, sending the truck veering off the road. He crashed through the desert brush, barely managing to stop before hitting a ditch. The dust settled. The thing was gone. Jake sat there, hands gripping the wheel, his breath shaking. Then he noticed the deep claw marks burned into the metal, and in the scratches, something whispered, "See you soon." Encounter number 3. Hiking at night was my thing. There was something about the quiet stillness of the desert that made me feel at peace. That night the moon was full, the path lit just enough to see. It was about halfway through my usual route when I noticed her. A woman standing ahead on the trail. She was barefoot, wearing a tattered nightgown. Her head was tilted at an unnatural angle. Her long black hair hanging in front of her face. "Hey," I called. "Are you okay?" She didn't move. She didn't breathe. Then her head jerked sharply to the side, like a glitch in reality. A chill ran through me. I took a step back. She mimicked me, a perfect mirror. I lifted my hand. She did too, at the exact same time. But then she smiled. I didn't. That's when I ran. Behind me, footsteps pounded the ground. Fast, too fast. I didn't dare look back. I reached my car, fumbling with the keys, my hands shaking. I yanked the door open and slammed it shut. My breath came in ragged gasps. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. I looked up. She was standing right in front of the car. But it wasn't her anymore. It was me. My exact face, my exact body, smiling. Then it whispered in my voice, "Let me in." I floored it. The second my car passed through her, a wave of unnatural cold engulfed me. I drove straight home and locked every door and window. For days I felt off. My reflection moved a little too slowly. My voice echoed, even when I wasn't speaking. Then one night I woke up to a whisper in my own voice. "You let me in." Encounter number 4. Ava had always hated living alone in the desert, but rent was cheap. Besides, nothing ever happened out there, until the night she woke up to a knocking at her window. She glanced up at the clock, 3:12 a.m. Her heart thudded as she sat up, staring at the curtains. The knocking came again, deliberate, slow. She crept to the window, pulling the curtain aside just an inch. Eyes stared back. Her own eyes. She stumbled back, choking on a scream. The thing outside grinned, its face too perfect, too exact, except for the teeth. They were all wrong. Then it spoke. "Let me in, Ava." Her stomach dropped. She hadn't told it her name. She ran for the front door, grabbing her keys, but as she reached for the handle, a voice whispered from the keyhole, "Going somewhere?" Encounter number 5. David was driving down a lonely stretch of road when he noticed something in his rear view mirror. A hitchhiker standing in the middle of the road behind him, except he hadn't passed anyone. He drove faster, heart pounding, refusing to check the mirror again, but something thumped against the roof. Then the whispering started. It was his own voice, soft and amused. "Where are we going, David?" His blood ran cold. He gripped the wheel, trying to ignore it, but the whisper came again, closer this time. "Look at me." Against his better judgment, he glanced in the mirror. The thing was in the back seat. It grinned. Then the car engine shut off, and the thing leaned forward, its breath cold against his ear. "Your turn." That's all for this evening. Sweet dreams.